Kia ora. Oh yeah, it's working. Okay, so we're almost there. Kia ora koutou, we made it. This is the final session, and I'm going to sit forward a bit so I don't look like a small child dangling my legs. Ko Teina, Herzer, tōku ingoa. I'm a board member of NDF. This is I'm one of the final 4 that are leaving this year, and I was previously the executive director, and now I'm working with Queensland Museum. So over the past 2 days, predictably, AI has been a hot topic, not only in presentations, but also over the chocolate slices and the few beers as well. So its promises, its risks, its impact on our organisations, our communities, and also society at large. This session, though, brings us back to the practical. So what is actually happening in GLAM right now with AI? What's working? What are the challenges? And what does meaningful impact really look like? To help us explore that, I am joined by 3 clever people who are deep in this work right now. So they'll be questioning, imagining, testing tools, and shaping policy, things that are really making a difference. I've asked them to start by giving us a quick introduction to their work in the area, and then we will have a bit of a kōrero. We will be taking questions throughout the session. It's a fireside, and we'd like you to be part of it. So please use the Slido app. We'll be keeping an eye on any questions that are coming through. So first of all, I will introduce Adrian, who most of you know well, but Adrian is the head of digital channels at Te Papa, leads the digital museum strategy at Te Papa, making collections, research and community content more accessible across Aotearoa and the world. Adrian brings a holistic view of museum practice with a focus on audience impact, evaluation and the full potential of digital. Over to you.
Thank you. Did I send you that?
No. AI wrote that.
It sounds... Kia ora tātou, ko Waipawa te awa, ko Koukou te maunga, no Hawke's Bay ahau, ko Kingston tōku whānau, and ko Adrian tōku ingoa. I'm Adrian Kingston. I was born and grew up in Waipawa, Central Hawke's Bay. So I spent my formative years close to the Waipawa River, but I spent the almost last half of my life living on the slopes of Mount Koukou. Here in Wellington. So I've been at Te Papa for 23 years. I've worked in a range of positions, but I'm currently head of digital channels, as Teina just said. In that big funny building, I still actually haven't figured out what direction it's in when you're in here. And with my small team, I look after Te Papa's websites for the few million people that we reach through those, and our digital outreach program, which you've heard a little bit about today, which reaches millions more. And I work with many others at Te Papa on hybrid and on-floor experiences. So I'm just going to really quickly go through what Te Papa's been doing with AI in the last 18 months or so. So post-GPT, which was a GPT-4, which was March 2023, we decided in October that we needed to develop really high-level guidelines, so we did that. We also stood up an AI exploration group in late 2023, led by our Chief Executive, Courtney, because it had been identified as a strategic priority and something that our board was really interested in as well. This group had a range of people from across the organisation, and in every meeting we had external guests come in and tell us from their organisation what they are doing with AI, which is super interesting. We created an intranet AI guidance page, which has changed and grown over time as we've learned and as people have asked us stuff. We've undertaken a Kaimahi survey to establish how staff are feeling on key issues. The response covered the spectrum from enthusiastic to terrified, but on average, cautiously optimistic. We had 112 responses, which is actually really high for an organisation who does a lot of surveys internally. The key issues were ethics and fairness, trust, transparency and communication, impact on jobs, that came up a lot, accuracy and reliability, alignment with organisational values, including the environment, and cultural sensitivity and representation. We've been doing a few internal experiments. Paul actually talked about one of them just before. Gareth Watkins, our collection data manager, has kind of been leading a lot of this stuff. He has created a prototype using a custom ChatGPT on our collections online to look at the available information on a collection item page to create custom descriptions on the fly by the user, looking at different audiences and language needs. We have also, Gareth is also working with a curator to test using AI over a small, safe collection of objects that have records and images online but no description to automate generating object description or essentially alt text. They have gone through and assessed different models, the quality of the generated captions, the prompt refinement, a number of other things. We are currently also developing a prototype AI, custom AI, to assess visitor feedback that we get against the audience impact model that we use at Te Papa, so that we can assess thousands of lines of visitor feedback against our experience goals. It's going really well. We hosted a sector leadership hui with other organisations such as National Library, Radio New Zealand, Creative New Zealand, Film Commission, etc, etc, etc. We've held internal AI 101 sessions for staff. We decided we did need a policy, not just guidelines, so we have, but we decided that we were going to be very deliberate, open and collaborative in how we approached it. So we have created a draft policy based on government guidance, staff feedback, known AI issues, and the existing Te Papa policy, strategy, data governance, environmental impact, etc. And I can honestly say, as someone who isn't into policy, it's a really good policy. It manages opportunities while sticking to our core principles. And importantly, it doesn't reinvent the wheel. We already have policies in place for privacy, IT use, security, finance, etc. So it isn't trying to replicate or go against any of those. It did, however, highlight a couple of places where we do have gaps, such as formal data sovereignty governance group. We do have very good procedures in place for making decisions, particularly around Indigenous information, but we do need to join the dots a bit more and formalise some of those practices. As part of developing the policy, we've created real-world guidelines, including examples and FAQs, and these will evolve over time as we learn more, because not everybody can read policy and understand how it really does apply to their role. As part of the policy rollout, we will be doing more training, which is in development, and again informed by staff questions. And we will set up some high-level monitoring, including financial and, where we can, energy use. We are going to do our best effort with existing resources and evolve as tools evolve, because of course we aren't the only ones who are dealing with this problem. And some of you might have noticed how rudely I left the room this morning during Dave's amazing presentation. That was to go to an ELT meeting where we actually tabled the policy, and I checked with Courtney and I said, can we pass on this news? And she said, totes. So our ELT has endorsed the policy. Next is it goes to our board for approval, because they have expressed significant interest in this, and then we'll share it as far and wide as we can. But for the highlights of what we've done in the last few years is, I'm actually really proud of how collaborative and open we were in developing this policy with our staff and other organisations. And we've got a few cool but very practical examples of experimentation as well. Ngā mihi.
Fantastic. Thank you, Adrian. Next up is Lucie Paterson. So Lucie is also with me on the board. She is the Head of Experience, Digital and Insights at Acme in Melbourne. Lucie leads award-winning work at Acme, designing tools and experiences that are practical, future-facing and grounded in robust audience insights. Her team's digital products have been adopted by institutions around the world. And she is also an audience board member, as I just said, an NDF board member. She has worked in South Bank and London and at Te Papa.
Thank you, Teina. I can tell that that also went through AI because it wasn't the one I provided.
And it repeated, like strike one.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me to speak today. It's really exciting to be here. I thought I'd give a little bit of context as to why ACME engages and with emerging technologies. So ACME is the National Museum of Screen Culture in Melbourne, Naarm, Australia. So as a museum of film, TV, video games, we're also a museum of technology. And staying current with the technology isn't optional for us, it's our responsibility. We actively explore and showcase technology that's often unfamiliar to our public. So we're thinking here about mixed reality, interactive media, projection innovations, and of course AI. And with AI and all of these emerging technologies, it's very much about helping our audiences and the sector understand what's coming and what it means. So our approach at ACME with AI is very much to lead by example, and we've committed to AI literacy in the organisation through some key principles of experimentation, transparency and debate. And it's not just about using AI and using the tools to make things and show things. It's really about questioning it and explaining it and demystifying it. And I think the demystifying it part, particularly for our staff, but also our audiences, has been really strong throughout the last few years. We have been building tools and sharing them as well. So since 2017, we've been developing and deploying AI tools, mostly machine learning, to improve the access to our collections, focusing on enabling search inside of our videos, being a predominantly video collection. And these tools have been adopted by other cultural institutions, and proof that really the tools aren't just functional, but they're replicable and they're relevant. And we really believe that we shouldn't all be using resource to make the same things. We should really be collaborating. All of these tools that we build are from open libraries, open frameworks. We open source all our software. So to make it just as easy as possible for people to adopt. And we also come to events like this to present our work at conferences to expand the impact across our sector. We're a museum and we exhibit artists and exhibitions, and we're really interested to exhibit artists that interrogate AI, not just use it. And so we're interested in exploring how creativity and critique come together. And this includes our live programs, our exhibitions and symposiums like FACT, which has come up a couple of times, and I'm going to give it a little plug because I've got your attention. The Future of Arts, Culture and Technology, and next year it's the 11th to the 13th of February in Melbourne. We'll also have our major new playable video games exhibition open, so we would love everyone to come over and see that too. A couple more points. So education is really core to our mission. We've run webinars for teachers, hands-on AI workshops and public events that explain how AI works, not just what it does. And ethical concerns are front and centre in our investigation. So fairness, inclusion, harm reduction and accountability. But we are also with all of you and learning at the same time. And it's changing so fast, right? Our sector outreach has helped others as well to shape their own responsible AI practices. So we've been able to do this research and then start to sort of consult with to other museums and share the tools and actually introduce a small, but in this climate, important new revenue stream to the organisation. So we're training the sector at the same time, not just ourselves. As I said, we're doing some consulting and we're sharing what works with all of you. We have a blog post called acme.labs.net.au, and we really try to share as much as we can in terms of our experimentation to really support a more thoughtful and informed adoption of AI across the sector. And then the last bit that I'm very excited about is that really also in line with the impact kind of theme of the conference. We're really focused now that we've done a lot of this experimentation and we understand how to build things with the technology, how we can actually present this work in galleries to assist our visitors, so to enhance the visitor experience. We've done a lot online with the collection, but now we're really wanting to bring it into the visitor space, which is exciting. So focused on that now, developing products, and we might get to some of that a little bit later. But yeah, really wondering as well what the impact of that is, the evaluation of those. So not just the accuracy of the AI and what it kind of spits out, but also the user experience of the product that we develop and how, like Adrian said, how do visitors feel about a museum using AI? Is it what they expect? When they use it, do they know that's what they're using? How does that change their thought about the values of the museum? So there's a lot in there as well that we're just starting to unpick through our visitor surveys. So we might get to talk a little bit about that later.
Thank you, Lucie. And finally, we have Ravi Chandra, who is the Head of Product and Technology at Dexhibit, which I'm sure many of you here are familiar with. And this is what AI has to say about you. So Ravi leads product and technology at Exhibit, where he's focused on improving engagement, accessibility and impact for cultural institutions through data. With a background in engineering, he's found his passion in helping the GLAM sector succeed with smart tools and insights.
Thank you. So Exhibit is all about understanding visitor behaviour through data. So every visit generates this constellation of data right from the moment a visitor walks through the front doors. They're captured by the people counting cameras. They might buy a ticket to a special exhibition, grab a long black from the cafe, and on their way out, grab a soft toy from the store. Once they're at home, they might tweet about it. And so at Exhibit, we go and we plug into a lot of these systems that produce the data, many of them very disparate, and we collect it all and collate it, and then attempt to weave it together into some sort of a beautiful tapestry so that our customers, those in the GLAM sector in the back room, can start to understand correlations, see different trends, analysis, and hopefully get some insights into how their operations are performing. So for us, AI has made a huge impact, and I think in three primary facets. I think first of all, it's really opened the doors to qualitative data. Prior to generative AI and just this advent of this new wave of technology, most of what we would present and capture was quantitative, so sort of hard numbers. But now with the skills in natural language processing, we can start to do a lot more. And I think we just heard a little bit about that in terms of visitor feedback and so on. So this is opening up new data sets. The second facet is our product. It's complex. Data can be very overwhelming. It's hard to get into, hard to understand. And so we see this as a way to break down and democratize some of that insight by engaging with people using a language that they understand. So we're constantly trying to find out ways to simplify our product and create more engagement with users who don't trust their own confidence or skills in data analysis or statistics, or don't consider them to be technical. And then finally, I think the most interesting aspect, or I should say change that we're starting to see is, I think it's, as an organization, our mindset is sort of shifted a little bit, and we're trying to become, let's say, AI first, or at least rethink processes in terms of how can AI help. And I think what's important to distinguish here is that we're using AI as a tool for automation as opposed to generating or creating content. So it's a little bit different. But certainly I think we'll see more of that across the industry as everyone's sort of searching for efficiencies, so to speak. And going back to the topic, from policy to practice, how did this sort of start within our company? Well, actually, believe it or not, we were quite AI skeptical. And it was actually, I think, a bottom-up movement within our organization where we had staff who wanted to experiment with the technology. They were experimenting with it. They were using it. And we thought, we've got to front foot this and embrace that and figure out how we, how we come up with a policy that suits the organization without stifling that work, or worse, letting it happen without really knowing what's going on. So that's sort of how we made our start, and I think that early experimentation was really profound, because we learned quickly and developed organization intuition into how sort of the pitfalls of AI, what it's good at, what it's not so good at, and everyone sort of went along with that journey. To which point now, I think it's just a part of what we do. It's part of the mindset and our organizational intuition.
Excellent, thank you. And there's lots of questions coming through on the Slido, so do keep them coming. And what you can also do is you can look at the questions that are coming through and you can upvote them as well, and that will tell us what are the most popular questions that we need to look at. We do have some prepared ones though, so I just wanted to dive into one of those, which was, so thank you, you've each shared where your organisations are at on the journey, and then you've all Ravi, I think you've been here today. I don't think you were here yesterday, but you've enjoyed the conference and listened to it and heard a range of perspectives from the cautious to the extremely critical and to the hopeful on AI. Has anything stood out in those recent conversations or what you've heard? And has anything shifted how you personally are feeling or how you think your organisation might be feeling about AI?
We're going in order? Okay.
I just jump in. I'm not going to pick on anyone unless I feel like it.
I think Kate's presentation yesterday was a really good reminder of kind of how we've been feeling about AI in the last couple of years, which is we know there's a lot of opportunity, but is it going to kill us? And I think it's a good reminder that we've been through this before. We've done it with, to differing degrees. This is a big wave, but we've done it with mobile technology. We've done it when the internet came along. We've done it when we put collections online, all of these kinds of things. And we've made good decisions in the past, not always, but I just keep trying to remind myself that this is something we can't really ignore, and I don't think as museums it's responsible to ignore completely, but we do have the tools and the expertise to find our way through this. So in many ways, I agree that we are heading to an awful dystopia, but let's do it in an informed way.
And let's be part of that terrible dystopia and help direct it as well, I think, rather than let it just sort of happen to us. Yeah, I totally agree. This might sound like a very obvious kind of answer, but I think there's just been so many talks, Paula's, Tui, Emily from National Communications Museum, many more, talking about curiosity and experimentation and innovation and failure and all of the things that we talk about at NDF all the time. So I think, AI is the next thing to apply cautious optimism with, but also employ all of these kind of values, I think, in your practice. And just jump in and have a go, I guess.
I don't think I can add too much to those fantastic answers. One of the things that really stood out for me that's a little bit different, though, actually, is data sovereignty and the ethics behind, or at least ethics as a consideration, which I think for our company, a lot of our customers are actually American, so it's a much lesser concern. But those perspectives are really interesting. I think it's definitely going to be some food for thought, but also raises a lot of questions. How can we, remain efficient and at that forefront of technology without, while still, maintaining our values and holding, ethical considerations with what we do.
Absolutely. So is there, so this is a conference about impact, obviously. How are you measuring the impact of your AI projects? Are you there yet? Do you have any sort of methods for doing that?
I can jump in and give a couple of examples. Certainly with the accuracy of the tools, we've been doing some evaluation, like trying kind of very early. We tried, we used Whisper for our to get the audio transcriptions of audio from videos, but then, every week or every month, something else comes out that claims to kind of do it better. So our creative technologist is always kind of keeping up with as much as they can in terms of what's coming out and testing it to see whether we get different results, how different prompts can kind of alter results. So there's definitely that kind of evaluation of the tools happening. There's also, we're just starting now to evaluate in gallery a product that we're calling the anecdote machine, which is really looking at kind of an automated curation in a way, so kind of machine learning versus the curator, and what might the curator make of an object or describe something versus what we can get out. So it's not a new thing. There's a few examples of museums doing it, but we'll be building it into an interface and having it in the museum and having someone from my team or maybe someone from exhibitions, whoever on staff wants to get involved, really facilitating that conversation with the visitor. So what the plan is that people get given a lens, which is a cardboard disc with an NFC chip in it, and they walk around our permanent centrepiece exhibition, The Story of the Moving Image, and they collect things that they want to take home to find out more online about. So we're going to plug it in one of these lens readers to the app that we make so that visitors can tap it with their lens. They will see what they've collected, and then they will be able to choose to get an anecdote or a connection between two items, or something that kind of expands on the information that we have about that object in the museum, but it's something that we can't fit in the exhibition. So that's what we'll be doing, and we'll also be at the same time asking them, like I said earlier, about the UI and the UX of the experience. If they know a lot about that object already, they might say, oh, that's actually not true, or I think, there's something wrong there, or they might pick up something that we haven't in terms of what the output is, so that data will help us refine the model, so that will go back in. And then the other piece is, how do they feel about it? We've been exhibiting artists that use AI now for a while, and we've recently had some very strong feedback from a small number of our visitors because of a couple of artworks that have a generative AI look or style. And so we're not telling the visitor otherwise, and so the visitor thinks that it is made with generative AI. And we ask the artist, and the artist says it's not. And so now we're realising that this is in everyone's, it's in the zeitgeist, right? It's in everyone's kind of everyday. It's a style now that's being used across a whole lot of software, and you can generate your own things. So really trying to do that literacy piece and also have that on the label. If they did or they didn't, if it looks like it, visitors will think that, and we're there to help them understand either way. So really, with the product we make, trying to also understand how they feel about a museum using AI, putting the collection through AI. We've got some very early feedback from some visitors who wouldn't expect that at all. They expect it's a human curator doing it. It didn't bother them at first until they thought about it, and then they're like, oh, I don't want to go to the museum to be told something that I could potentially find out through AI, through a web browser. So we're starting to get a sense of it already.
Excellent. Thanks, Lucie. So one of the most popular questions, and it does feed into one of the questions that we have here as well, and Adrian, you're probably in your wheelhouse in terms of the policy that Te Papa is putting together, and that is how can we ensure, or what steps can we take to ensure that AI use in GLAM institutions in Aotearoa is taking into account treaty and the obligations there? Just
a small question.
Yeah.
So there's lots of angles to it, but we now have a policy of how to develop policy, and that includes ensuring that all of our policies include our strategic principles, including being Te Tiriti-led, and Papa Tuanuku being a key driver for everything that we do as well. So that has flown through to this policy as well, and we do have, we've got principles in there around Māori data sovereignty, around energy use, like I say, but I mean, ultimately having these is good, but we say that in everything that we do, and we're still not very good at it. And so I think that there's a lot to do there, and I don't know that we're always the best ones to lead this answer. We are a colonial organisation, and as much progress as we have made, and we have amazing relationships with iwi, I feel like this is something that we should be doing with iwi along the way anyway. So a policy isn't going to fix any of that. So I think there's still a lot to learn, but again, building on the relationships and the processes that we already have is going to be something. And like I was saying before, this AI wave is an opportunity to elevate some of these issues that we do need to address, because we can't not. We can't really buy any more time saying that we're working on it. So I know that's kind of a weaselly answer, but I think basically making it a priority and making sure that every time we make a decision around, particularly any time that we're using anything about Māori by Māori, represents Māori, we have existing processes in place, and those processes are informed by what Māori wants. And that's just part of the puzzle. There's a whole lot of other pieces to it as well, but I do think it's a very difficult question, considering we're not very good at it in so many other spaces as well. So again, AI isn't different to a lot of the other things that we already do, and I saw another one of the questions. I don't want to jump ahead, but we've already made decisions in the past about what we do with our collections in terms of open access and things like that. Sometimes we've backtracked on them, sometimes we've made mistakes. I think we are going to have to relook at some of the things that we've decided about open access.
You have jumped ahead. So I'll let everyone know what the question is that you're now answering. The question, which was the next most popular one, is do we need to reconsider open access as a fundamental position around cultural collections in light of AI and use of data to train models? And the all-important, is it too late?
So I think we've made mistakes. So I do believe we're going to have to remake some decisions that we made because we made them in an internet age. We're now in an AI age. People are engaging with the collections in different ways, and that's going to continue to evolve. We aren't dealing just with people now, we're dealing with machines who are reinterpreting our collections. But I don't think it's the end of the world. I also think that a lot of the talk about AI is around how we make our collections available, make them more accessible, that kind of thing. I'm also really interested in what our role is in making AI, the big AIs, better. So rather than locking down, I actually think that we should be focusing our efforts into improving or reducing the bias of AI, and so actually targeting where AI are being trained, and trying to get our quality content, even though a lot of our content is biased as well, into places that might have an overall impact. So it's like we often just talk about consuming AI, but I think we have a role in informing AI at the bigger picture as well. And I've spoken enough.
Good answer. Tough questions. Lucie, the skills around, because you have a team that is working on products with AI, and Ravi, you as well, of course. So what sort of skills should GLAM professionals be developing or beginning to be developing now to be ready for increasing use of AI across our sector? Skills or, what do they need?
It's a really great question, and I've been pondering it because I felt like it might come up. I think the short answer is it's kind of similar to what Adrian was saying about this is a new technology, but we've also been here before and we've had to critically interrogate and understand a new technology and think about the opportunities and the risks and all of that. So I think still that critical thinking and analysis and is very important. I think thinking of what the opportunities can be and how we can leverage those things for organisational goals and for the things that we're already trying to achieve. We already are trying to increase access, increase engagement, support artists and makers and communities. So what are the ways that we've been struggling to do that in the past? And so I guess that's about creativity and problem solving and all of those kind of skills that we already all have in our institutions. So the creative technologists in my team are creative technologists. They look at what we're trying to solve and they suggest ideas based on what's out there. I think there's a lot around literacy with AI, definitely. And so I think having internal groups like Adrian was saying are really important. We've had a group called the Artificial Investigators at ACME for a while now, and that's been working really well, having people from across the organisation come together, including people in the legal team and people that you really want to get their buy-in for these kinds of things, and also bring a huge amount of knowledge about data sovereignty and rights management and all kinds of stuff. So I don't know that they're new skills particularly, but I think it's about applying existing skills to this new technology, perhaps?
Maybe I could add a little bit to that. One of the interesting things that we've seen is actually a lot of people might think that AI is all about specialist software engineering skills or data skills, but we've found actually that some of the best users or wielders of this AI technology are actually people from the GLAM sector or even customers themselves. And what they're good at doing is critical thinking and really articulate writing, because actually that's the most important thing to control an AI is through the instructions and the context that you can provide it. And often they know much better than, like our customers know much better than we do about their business or their organization, and they can craft much better instructions and provide much better details to the AI and get better results than we can do, or our engineers can do. And so where we've tried to be, where we're trying to take our product is to take the AI and the prompts as hopefully you all understand, like the kind of what you type into ChatGPT, and make them user controllable and editable. So there's both transparency and hopefully, from what we've seen, improved quality of results. So I don't think you need to go and relearn a whole bunch of new skills, but just thinking about what you've already got, and I think it's going to be even more important in the future as people rely more and more on the content that comes out of AI. I think Paul spoke in the previous, a little bit earlier this afternoon, about that decline in our ability to write, which I think could also lead to some profound results.
Can I just add something? Also, you can use AI to write code for AI. So, I think we've had a really interesting example of the manager of the AV and technical services team writing a whole kind of a whole app in React, connecting to all of the different systems in the museum that make lights and sounds and things happen. All using AI to write the code. So I think, there's also that.
Paula Bray in her talk mentioned trust as a key factor of innovation, and this seems like something that's quite applicable to that question and to a follow-up. So how do you go about building trust and confidence in your teams around using AI?
I feel like I'm talking a lot.
There's only 3 people up there, you're fine.
So I think definitely the group that we pulled together and having it, Seb Chan is our CEO, so he is very much supportive. It's experimentation and failure and innovation are kind of core to our strategy and our values, but it's the permission and the trust and the culture piece that actually makes the work happen and makes people feel like they're enabled to do it. So I think anyone can write it in their strategy document and say that they're doing it, but until it's a kind of a culture change across teams, and that takes a long time. But we've already heard that people are using this technology anyway. So I think it's really about leadership and the board enabling this kind of work, but understanding that we are cautiously optimistic and having policies and things like that. So I think there's definitely something around that. But then I think to what Ravi was saying also about writing things down and sharing experiences and talking and debating. And we initially had the group called, the title was AI Ambassadors. And I think we noticed that the kind of membership of it started dwindling a bit, and we thought, maybe it's work pressures or just people don't want to spend their lunch with us geeking out or didn't know what it was. But I think actually ambassadors made people feel like we're only for AI, and that if they were a bit hesitant or weren't interested, didn't think it was a good thing, they couldn't share their view. So we changed it to artificial investigators and had a bit of a rebrand and really shoulder tapped some people that we know have stronger opinions around it. And it's become a really safe place to share. So I think if you can engender that and kind of make that space to nurture those discussions, it could be really fruitful.
There's a couple of types of trust. One is having staff trust AI, which means, yes, there's a lot of learning and careful sharing of information and things like that. And the other one is trust in how we are using AI. And I'll just come back to our policy again. There's 8 principles in the policy, but they sit under 2 kind of overarching principles. One is principles relating to enabling and empowering kaimahi. So in there we have empowering, so actually making sure that people know that they can use it. Again, we've also had, we were like, it's okay to use AI, just be careful with what you're doing. We had some high-level principles before, but then every now and then someone would say to me in some other discussion, I've been using it and you probably won't be happy. And I'm like, well, what for? And they tell me to go, that sounds really good. So there's still this thing of, as it's emerging, that people don't know whether they should be or not. So definitely more guidance needed and empowering. But then the second of the broader principles is principles related to maintaining trust and confidence. And that is more about our stakeholders. So that is with iwi. That is that we are being careful with collection information, with privacy information, things like that. We have a human oversight principle, and we have a transparency principle as well about when it is that we say that we're using AI in any of our experiences or products, and to what level, being really clear about it. So I think there's because trust is a complicated thing, there's lots of angles to it to look at it from, but end.
You mentioned human oversight there, actually, and one of the questions that's popular is how do we balance automation with the need for human oversight, especially when dealing with culturally sensitive materials? So I'd be interested to hear if you have if the policy goes into that depth. Or
So one thing I should say about the policy is it is currently valid for 1 year.
And the board hasn't approved it yet.
And the board hasn't approved it.
Yeah, the policy.
When it is approved, it's valid for 1 year because we know that things are going to change. And we're doing a 6-month review as well. Also, the guidelines are going to change probably every week if we can keep them up to date. But the guidelines are the more practical things. As it is now, a human has to have oversight of whatever it is that we are using AI for. And most of the time that's actually not a problem because we are actively working with the AI. But we're being clear that you should have enough knowledge to be able to tell whether the AI has done a good job or not. And you still need to be transparent about having used it depending on what you've used it for. But I think Gareth's project around looking at whether we can do mass description at scale for uncatalogued items is a good example of when we're training, we are checking everything that it does. It will get to a point when we go, great, this is actually going to work, and we're going to throw 10,000 objects at it. We will need to figure out at what level are we going to verify that before it becomes counterproductive. So as we learn more, we will start to think more about what is the sampling that we need to do for a human to be involved. But then there are going to be other uses, and those uses already are happening now, where the AI happens on the fly and we aren't necessarily involved. So we know that people are using AI to translate our content. Is it translating it appropriately? Don't know. When we get to the point where it's like, okay, well, we want to maybe train something up so that it can do that in a way that we're more confident, then we'll release it and we won't check everything because it will happen on the fly by the user. So there's so many use cases. And again, we're taking a cautious approach now, but I do believe that there will be times when we will remove the human from the equation. I think it's inevitable, but it's not what we're doing now. Similarly with training the audience impact model AI, which is AMI AI, we are putting a lot of effort into the training now, and we are verifying whether it's giving it the same score as what we would give it. When we get to production again and we feed it in 1,000 responses, we will probably check 15 of them. And again, random sampling, just like happens in lots of industries with automation.
Another question, as you've, sorry, did you want to, no? Okay, as you've put together...
I will say something.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, now I've had a mind blank.
Tell the question again.
You were talking about
human
examples, because I was looking at Candice in the audience and thinking Candice will probably know much better the number than I do. But yes, we've been putting in different sort of, I guess, kind of some guide rails around some of the work to de-risk things. So it's all experimental. It's all kind of, we're learning from all of it, but I think we have a small collection compared to some of the collections we've heard about at the conference, but say there's 40,000 items on our website in the catalogue. There's 4,000 items that we have the rights for and that we feel comfortable putting through these systems. So we're doing it enough to be able to do the sampling and to be able to prove or disprove the function of the thing. But we're certainly not jumping in and putting our whole collection through these systems. So yeah, it's definitely similar kinds of examples to what you're talking about.
Maybe I could add on a little bit to that. We use AI often dynamically, and so it's funny, but we've gone through all of the same conversations, and human in the loop is definitely something that we originally had. But then we found what happens is once the AI gets to a certain level and humans start to get a bit lazy and trusted, and that button becomes more of a nuisance. So we've actually, jumped and removed that, and now we rely on sampling as a way to check how well it's performing.
Oh, that's really interesting. That's like automation back in the day. Okay. So this was an interesting one. As you've put together your policies and practices, and I'll also say products, who is showing best practice or who's leading the field? All of you are working with many museums and GLAM organisations at the same time. So, and has there been any surprises? Is anyone really impressing or surprising?
I'm happy to jump in because Emily's sitting right in front of me. We've been really thinking about how we can weave more of a kind of strategic story around the work that we're doing to pull it. So it's not just about the tools, but it's talking much more about why we're doing this and what's come before and what's coming after, and kind of embedding it more in our practice. And I think that the work that Emily and the team have been doing at National Communications Museum is really great. The work that, how kind of thoughtfully they're writing about AI and automation. So, I think there's definitely organisations out there. There's a lot of really great stuff happening in the Netherlands. There's a Slow IA project run by, I can't remember the name of the organisation, but the conference was just last week. And they're doing some really thoughtful, beautiful work. I think those two from me.
A lot of our approach to how we've introduced AI to Te Papa has been based on what ACME did ahead of us, which kind of reminds me, so the Fantastic Futures Conference was in Canberra in December, and there were organisations from all over the world, including the British Library, Cornell University was there. Who else was there? Lucie wasn't there. Anyway, lots of, it was mainly Northern Hemisphere with a good smattering from New Zealand and Australia. And what was cool was nobody felt like anybody else was ahead of anybody else. Everyone had different strengths. Cornell was doing amazing things with this one particular thing that I can't remember right now, but it was very collegial. It was lots of information sharing. Everybody was going, oh, wow, that's really cool when they hear somebody else's thing. So I actually think that, some places have been working in it a lot longer than we have, but of course it's changed so much in the last 2 or 3 years that everybody's kind of had to readjust where they're at. So I think it depends. It depends on what the thing that they are good at is. And so really what we've seen is a lot of really good work across the sector, but no one stands out that much. Library of Congress, for example, had a really good risk framework. Boring, but incredibly applicable. One final thing I will say is, it was really interesting, it's the first time this conference had been in the Southern Hemisphere, was that the only people or organisations who mentioned data sovereignty or the environment were from New Zealand and Australia. None of the Americans or Europeans did at all. And the Library of Congress woman was actually surprised when I raised it. So I think that kind of shows, where big tech is and where New Zealand and Australia and the Pacific Islands are in terms of thinking about how we use technology.
What's helped you move from early experiments and, the sort of the nervous devils and maybe the skunk works that you don't tell IT about, to more embedded and strategic uses of AI? So has there been a catalyst, or did Acme do it and Te Papa was like, fine, we can do it now?
We've definitely noticed that some of those tried and true kind of things like show, don't tell, like all of that kind of work is very important with AI because of the demystification and the fear around it. So I think definitely being able to spin something up quickly to show people is really important. We've recently partnered with the Queensland State Library, and they've run a selection of their videos through our tools, and we've spun up a very quick React front end that we host, and so they've been able to show that to their staff, and that's been really impactful. So yeah, I think there's definitely something around just that same kind of prototyping and instead of kind of talking about it and trying to convince people that way.
We definitely stole a lot from Acme, but I think where we are at as an organisation is we knew right away that this is something that was going to be needed to be used, so we wanted to create the freedom to do this. And Craig, who's our Chief Technology Officer, is in the audience, and maybe compared to other organisations, he was a supporter rather than a barrier of going, let's figure this out and make the space for people to be able to do this. We're not in production, we're very much in, today was a big milestone because now everybody when it's approved, sorry, don't jump ahead.
Yeah.
We will have the guide rails and we will all know what they are. So I think we'll start to build things that actually get delivered. But I think we had a good culture in place, and so that probably helped us reduce that fear to start with.
Okay, we've got a few minutes left, and there's plenty of questions, so many questions that we're just not going to get through them all. So we might have to have a think about how we want to deal with all these questions, and if perhaps we'd invite our speakers to jump in and make a bit of a conversation around it on Slido. So, but we will keep going, but apologies, we will be disappointing a whole bunch of you. So one of the questions we have is, what happens if we just ignore this and run away from it? What happens?
Ravi, as a business, how would you answer that?
I think this is a profound change. Maybe as big as the internet. I think if you choose to ignore it, maybe you could carve a special niche, but I think you would be quite left behind in terms of the productivity benefits of using AI, for better or worse. And I think it's hard to say. I think the technology is moving so fast that we as a society don't quite know what we're going to do with it yet, because there's going to be a lot of change, I think.
And to add to that, I think we're stretching muscles now, understanding all of this and interrogating it, that we will need to use again when the next thing comes along, the next emerging technology. You know, it wasn't long ago that we were looking at blockchain and NFTs, and that really felt like this big wave that we all had to jump on. And so, you know, we don't know what's around the corner. So I think if we can, flex the muscles now, it sets us up for the future.
One thing it took me quite a while to get my head around is it's not a blanket yes or no. You apply it in the places that it makes sense and you don't do it in other places. And that's how you understand where your risk metric is. But I think even though AI is different, I would still go, what if you asked that question when the internet came out or when the printing press came out or any of these other things? And we have to think about, as I said before, also our roles for Te Papa as a national museum. What is our role in informing the future of AI, not just letting it happen? Because museums have kind of done that in the past. And if we don't do it, the big corporates will do it, and we know what that looks like.
A question that's come through that's an interesting talking point, I don't think anyone has an answer for, but is why do we have to use these big corporate AI tools, and why can't we as a sector around the world make an ethical glamour AI? Is that something that's even feasible given the scale of the technology required?
Can we ask the people from Koha to come up and answer that?
Yeah. Exactly.
But I don't think it's a silly question.
No.
I seriously think that we should be looking at it, particularly in New Zealand, not just from a GLAM perspective, but from a culture perspective. And I think it's, again, something that maybe we could lead as a country rather than be led. And again, it's not a one or the other. It might be in a particular area. Maybe we focus on language. Who else to deal with Te Reo Māori than New Zealand? So I kind of feel like that actually it is something that the government should be looking at, or a more grassroots from sector up, working with iwi. We have the skills in the country. So I actually hope that we do.
Good answer. Okay, so just fine again. So please head up the Slido and keep an eye on it, because we'll be tackling these in our spare time. But just to sort of close out, so I guess I'm a bit of a techno-optimist. I think I've said that a number of times. Even after Kate's talk, I had to have a good think, but I think I've still got a glimmer of optimism there. So Ravi, I'm going to ask of all three of you just maybe to sort of paint us a picture of, you know, if everything goes well, where could AI actually be taking us? You know?
I think there was a famous economist, I think maybe a century ago, talking about the future around maybe 2030. I can't remember his name, but he painted a picture of where, you know, machines and AIs did all the work, and we were free to live our best creative selves. And maybe that could be like a utopia where, you know, machines actually help us. But I think, you know, just looking at the board, you know, there's a strong undertone of, you know, the capitalist society that we live in. So it's hard to say. Like I wouldn't want to place any bets. So there's good and bad, and I think we'll see both sides of it for sure.
It's a really tough question. I would hope that it could assist us with some of the, like the really big things that we're tackling at the moment around equality and inclusion, and I know that we're seeing the exact opposite be stripped out and happening in different parts of the world. But I wonder if there's a role for AI to help us be a more empathetic and understanding society.
I think museums will have made strides in access to the collections and joining them up for people who have the existing digital access. I think there'll be some pretty cool and also some pretty lame experiences that happen in museums. I think there will be some great new research that has never been able to be done before because we can make connections between data sources that have never been able to. But I think, again, if you think about the internet, it all comes down to people, and we are in a late-stage capitalist society. So That's why, coming back to my point before, I think when we think about our role in all of this, what is it that we can do? But it doesn't mean in 5 years things are going to be amazing. So how can we make things better with the bit that we can?
I'd add personally that AI has made a huge impact on my productivity in my role around, just churning through a lot of admin. So I guess, there's a big picture look at how the impact is going to be across society, but then I guess there is the practical look of, if everyone was given the freedom and enabled to use these tools for pure productivity, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I know there's governments that are looking at that at the moment. So, yeah, I think you summed it up nicely with where we are practically, which was the name of the panel today. All right. So there are still a lot of questions coming in, which shows just how much this is a hot topic, and really we should probably just hold a conference on AI alone. But that is it. Thank you so much. And we will hand back to Jim to see us out for the close.
Thank you.